Welcome to Healing Generations, a podcast creating a dialogue uplifting the importance of healing, strengthening, and supporting our communities, and that addresses the disparities and inequities in communities of color. Healing Generations is brought to you by the Healing Generations Institute, a collaborative initiative of the National Compadres Network and the Brotherhood of Elders. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on our new releases.
Oh, greetings. This is Jerry Teo, and I want to welcome you once again to the Healing Generations podcast. Thank you for joining us today, and as we always do, I want to begin by thanking the Creator and the ancestors for another day of life, for all the blessings that they provide for us. As we do that, we acknowledge all our ancestors, all your ancestors too, all those that come from your root, from your lineage, and we invite them to come here, sit with us, and guide us today, and as we go on this journey to really lift up the medicine of all of our people, of all the generations that have helped us survive and get where we're at, but at the same time to heal the generations of pain that way. And so we thank you for listening, for going on this journey with us, for being in this sacred space today once again. And today I feel very honored, very privileged to sit with with a camarada, a friend, a veterano, a brother, a peace warrior, a prolific writer, author, someone that really has set the pace for healing through creativity, through poetry, through the sense of floricanto. Truly an inspiration to so many, has inspired so many people with his books, with his poetry as a poet laureate, but also as a wonderful father and grandfather, the co-founder with his esposa Trini of the Achuchas, which is a gathering place for healing and centering for so many people and inspiration for that generation. And who I'm talking about is Luis Rodriguez. And, Luis, just thank you so much for coming on today. I just want to, honor you that way and thank you and give you a time to greet the listeners.
Well, thank you so much. It's actually an honor to be here, to be talking to you, Jerry, and to share some ideas and some concepts and maybe some healing words. So Thank you. I think that's what we need to do today. I always tell people that healing is a revolutionary act, and people want to be about change, but they always don't include the healing. And we need all that as part of the change that we have to make in this world.
Right. Well, I appreciate that. And, as you mentioned that, I think about the journey of healing. The journey of healing, begins, generations ago, because our ancestors, started that journey for us and have been through a lot and carried many, many things. But I wonder if you could start off by just sharing a little bit about, you and your people and your lineage and your journey, a little bit about getting here.
So when I'm in doing ceremony and people ask where you're from, I've been saying that as far as what you might call peoples, nations, I am Tarahumara Mexica. My mother is Raramuri Tarahumara from Chihuahua. She didn't grow up traditional. She grew up in the barrio. It's a ghetto called La Tarahumara in Chihuahua City. She was born there. They're all raised Catholic. They all knew they were Tarahumaras, but they didn't have their language. They didn't have their traditions, but they all had the tradition, what they call the Tarahumara dress, which is really the Catholic dress they put on them. You see them, and they even run in these dresses, but they're actually Catholic dresses. They're not that traditional. But anyway, one thing that she did, I have to honor that, is growing up, she always told us we were Tarahumaras, Raramuri. And that was important because a lot of Mexicanos, they don't know their tribal roots. I guess, but nobody really knows. My mother reminded me. And the sad thing is my dad from Guerrero, he has a lot of Spanish, some African, and some Nahuatl in him. But he grew up in Mexico where he forbid my mother to talk about Tarahumara. He forbid her to say anything, whatever word she knew, and any healing curanderismo that she knew. She actually knew stuff. He forbid it. It's sad. He also forbid her from singing. That's just the macho culture in the house, It's really sad because one day my uncles came, her brothers, and they were drinking beer in the backyard and she was singing. I didn't know she could sing. She had a beautiful voice. My dad got pissed off. Another time I had my feet all messed up. I worked at 13 years old in the car wash and my feet got all messed up with these flowery bubble spores. And the doctors, we never went to doctor, but she took me to the doctor and he put me ointments and he couldn't fix me. So she brought her uncle, my tío Kiko, and they did some chants, and they'd put a gourd with some marijuana leaves. You know, in those days, marijuana
Yeah.
was bad, but they knew how to use it. And they put the
Right.
añejo, you know, the tequila, left it overnight. They did their prayers. They put that on my feet. It got better. But my dad didn't like it. He kind of let her do it. Okay, let her do it because my feet weren't getting better. It's sad that we were deprived of knowing our roots. So my effort in the last, especially the last 40, 50 years has been finding my heritage, going back to my roots, the Mexica, Tarahumara roots. Of course, I'm Chicano. I grew up here. I don't mind saying Chicano. That's where I grew up. I grew up in the barrios of San Gabriel Valley, East LA, and that's my growth. But I don't want to forget my indigenous roots, especially the Raramuri Mexica that I have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that as well. My dad coming from Texas, we have Tapilanco, Vitecan roots, but he wouldn't even call himself Mexicano. He says, I'm a Texan. Somos Tejanos, because it wasn't good to say you're a Mexicano, and it was worse to say that you were, a native.
That's true.
So where he says, we're Texans, and that shame and that many of our relatives had.
Yeah, exactly.
It took a toll on us even growing up.
Yeah.
Who am I? When you become a teenager, you run to, well, who am I, man? And and I know that part of your journey, as a youngster, was struggling with that. Was trying to figure out who am I, and it took you down a path. You write about it in your book, Always Running.
Yeah.
And what are we running from, and where are we running to? I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that.
Well, I rebelled early on against my parents, and I remember when I was 10 years old. My mother used to hit us, with the chancla, la manguera, the gancho, lo que sea. And I never thought it was abuse. It was just her disciplining me. But when I was 10 years old, I wouldn't cry. I would stop crying. And that really bothered her. And I feel bad for my mom because she just grew up rough. And then she gave up hitting me because nothing happened. I turned against my parents and I turned to the streets. 11 years old, I joined a gang. And I got into a heavy end of it. And by 12, I was already doing heavy drugs, including heroin. I didn't shoot it up intravenously to 15, but I was already snorting it, putting it on my weed, skin popping, all these things you do with heroin. I was getting arrested for stealing, disturbing the peace, fighting, eventually was in murder's row, and eventually for attempted murder and fighting with cops, just constantly raging in the world. I dropped out of school and I was homeless for 3 years as a teenager. So the street life was my life, and it's a life that would have ended really badly. I got shot at half a dozen times in the barrio as a teenager. I had OD'd on drugs 3 times, but what wouldn't happen is I wouldn't die, And it's like I didn't understand it. Everybody was dying around me. I lost 25 friends by the time I was 18. But I wasn't dying, and I was like, what's going on here? And it's suicide, though. I didn't think I was going to try to cut my wrist, but I did. I tried one time. And I couldn't do it. I tried. I had a bucket with water so I could put my wrist in there so that the blood wouldn't get all over. I didn't want my mom to clean the walls, And so I thought, well, maybe our blood would just go in the bucket and she wouldn't have to. But I couldn't do it. And I thought my suicide trip was standing in front of the bullets, not running when people were getting shot. And you know what? For some reason, the bullets wouldn't hit me. I mean, people say, well, God's on your side. I think it's a mystery. I don't imagine God didn't care for the people that did get shot. I always felt like, why didn't he protect them? If God loved me so much, why didn't he love them? And I was not a good person to be loved. So you have the survival guilt, that I survived all this and I didn't end up like all my homies. But I think that the key thing for me was having a vision when I was young. I was maybe 17 years old when a mentor from the Brown Berets came into my barrio. I was in Loma, South San Gabriel. They're in the San Gabriel Valley, which I know you know all about. People don't know the San Gabriel Valley in the 60s and 70s had 100 Mexican migrant communities that were the poorest communities in LA County.
Yeah,
we were surrounded by white suburbs that were racist. The sheriff's deputies, for the most part, was their army against us. We were fighting wars in our own streets. People were going to Vietnam, but my attitude was, I'm already at war. I'm already fighting. People, bullets are already flying at me. But it was this Chicano activist who came to my barrio. He was a youth mentor. He guided me through a lot of things. I told him to drive dead I don't know how many times. I gave him a hard time, but he never gave up on me. And that's really the key. that he stood by me no matter what. Even when I got arrested and people were like giving up on me when I got into the heavy drugs, I wouldn't let it go. And he was arguing with me, dude, you got to let this stuff go. And I wouldn't do it. And I let it go for a while. Then I came back. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It was rough, but he never gave up. So early on, at 19, 20 years old, just before I got married and had my kids, I gave it all up. And what he taught me, he didn't save me. You know, people say, well, these mentors save you. What he did, I don't even think he knew what he's doing. I think it might have been some genetic memory working. He gave me the tools, resources, and the connections, and he gave me the caring I needed to save myself. And that to me is the key to all mentoring. Not that I'm going to save somebody, you know, that makes me the hero. It's more like helping those young people become their own hero. They're heroes in their own life. And that's what he taught me. You got to make these decisions. When I was in jail the last time, I had to make decisions that he wasn't there whispering in my ear what to do. I had to make the decisions I had to make so that I can get out of that life. And those are the things that he brought into my mind, my consciousness and awareness that has taken me all these years always to think I have to own what I do and own my awareness and try to apply it.
Wow. Yeah. And you talk about it, Luis, and you know, share it, but I know it still sits with you. You know, you know, people don't realize that what we went through, even though we're better, even though, you know, we may be able to rise above it, that it still sits in our spirit, it still sits in our body, and not as a bad thing, but as a memory, you know, sometimes. And it's really, I know for you, because I've seen you inspire young people. I've seen you inspire, you know, people that have no inspiration, that probably are on that verge of wanting to commit suicide, and you have a way in. And part of that is because you walked that way and you know what it feels like, and you've been there. And so the medicine that you carry from the woundedness then allows you really to touch people who are wounded in that very same way, you know. And as you've been on this path, I'm wondering, what are those teachings or those lessons? You know, you mentioned one in your early years, but what are those lessons and those teachings, or even those challenges that have really propelled you to do the work that you're doing?
Well, you know, one thing is, I was talking to him about he's 52 years old. He's from the San Gabriel Valley, Puerto Loco.
Yeah.
When I first met him, he was tattooed all over his face, you know, everywhere. I was talking to him, had lunch with him yesterday. He has all his tattoos been removed.
Wow.
And he's a pelon with all these tattoos everywhere. They're all removed on his face. He still has them on his body, but they're all gone. He looks so different. His hair is now long. He's got a beard. He didn't have a beard. He was all pelon with tattoos. He looks so angelic now, 52 years old. And I told him the key thing about your life is that if you made these shifts, huge shifts from where you were when I first met him to where you're at now. Now he's helping people. He's helping young people. I go, that says a lot about you. And he didn't want to hear it because he's told his whole life he was no good. And the reason why he had these tattoos, so he would, like an armor, he would keep the world away from him. Don't mess with me. Don't get near me. I don't want to be hugged. I don't want to be cared for. But now he's open to being cared. Now people look at him in a good way. He's got kids. He's got family. And again, he looks like a regular schmo now. You know what I mean? I told him that's a good thing, bro, because a lot of us looked hard. And now we don't look hard because the softness starts coming in. It's part of the healing. I don't mean softness like you can't be hard. I'm saying that you're open to other levels of your emotional life. And he looked at me like, man, I don't want to hear that I'm doing good. I said, listen, dude, you're 52. That means you're looking to be an elder. You're the 13-year cycle. You're there. Now you're looking to the other side. Now you're looking to give. And I told him that knowledge is what you get from the past. Knowledge from books, from your homies, from friends, from teachers. But wisdom is what you get for the future. And now you got this wisdom, and now you're going to go to the future, and you're going to help others. And he took it all in, but I know his face was like, I don't want to hear all this stuff, but I'm doing good. I told him, but you made these shifts. You have to be recognized. Community has to recognize you, that you did these good things. And that, as you know, has happened to a lot of us, including my son Ramiro, who you interviewed. He was in that crazy world and the gangs and everything, but he's changed. If you look at him now, 48 years old, he's going to be 49. He has a really nice face. He's a nice guy.
Yeah.
He wasn't that way when he was in the gangs and in prison, you know. All of us were hard, but we started looking like we got this decency in us. And that's what's important, because I want people to know that even if you got all these tattoos, even if you think I'm going to die this way, you still got spiral of development to go through that will take you to something much more beautiful, much more truthful, and much more decent.
Mm. You know, powerful what you're mentioning and what this brother went through and what he did. You know, in him removing those symbols that kept people away, that kept goodness away, that shielded him. I mean, it was really his shield. It helped him survive, I'm sure. But it didn't allow him to thrive. It didn't allow him to receive goodness or be on that good path, or even people that probably would want to offer him things would not, because of the way he looked. And you know, and you point to a really big teaching, you know, that I really want the audience to think about. What are those tattoos that we carry? What are those ways that we carry that keep goodness away?
Yeah.
What are those ways that we act in, you know, and some very justifiably so. I remember, you know, many periods of my life when I was angry. I was just angry at the world. I was angry at, you know, all kinds of things. And you know, and even as a dad, I became a dad. I have these kids, and I remember my daughter, you know, one day, she's 15 now, wants to go to this dance, and, you know, and she's doing good in school. And Dad, you said we go to the dance, but this guy's going to pick me up to take me. And I'm like, well, who's the guy? Who's I said, well, he's just a friend from school. Well, bring him here. I got to meet him. Why you got to meet him? I'm just going to pick. No, you bring him in the house. And she says, you know, she says, well, I don't want to bring him inside. I said, well, why? She says, because you're going to mad dog him, man. You look mean. Look at you right now. And I had my fists that were curled up. I was talking to I was pissed. Who's this guy going to meet my daughter? And because of that, she didn't want to bring him in. And because of that, she was afraid of how I was going to react. And she says, Dad, you have to promise me. And I didn't even realize it. I didn't realize my body was tightening up. Didn't realize I was looking mad. Didn't realize I was just afraid.
Yeah, that's right.
I was afraid. So I had to go through my own journey of realizing how I showed up. You know, and what the healing that I needed to do in order that I could be a better father. Yeah. So that my daughter wouldn't be afraid of bringing people in the house, you know. And I know that, you know, us as dads, as partners, as compañeros, in our journey in growing up, we take on these things. You mentioned the sense of machismo, you know, and that sense that many of our fathers carried, you know. You know, I want to ask you, because I know I've seen you, Luis, and I see your path, and I know you follow traditional. What are those things that have helped you? What is the medicine and the traditions that helped you to heal from, you know, the woundedness that you went through? And let's be straight, it doesn't go away. Right. And we still get the discrimination and the racism and all the pushback. But what are those teachings? What did you learn along the way? What is the medicine that you've incorporated in your life that has helped you on your journey?
Well, one thing, as you know, for the last 30 years or so, I was going towards my indigenous teachers. I found indigenous teachers when I was in Chicago, Mexicas, but also Lakota. I used to go to Pine Ridge, and I was working with gang kids, so we would bring gang kids into the reservation there. These mostly Chicano, Mexican, Puerto Rican gang kids who had no traditions. They were all heavy-duty street kids, but they were so happy to see these Native Americans. The problem with the Native American youth on Pine Ridge is they all wanted to be Chicago gangsters. Yeah. And they were like, why you want to be like us? We want to know what you know. We don't have our tradition. You guys got it, but you guys want to be like us. It was just really, and they helped a lot of those Lakota kids when we were going over there. And then we met an elder who took them to the Vision Quest, took them on the hill, and they went through these traditional things. It was very helpful. So I would say that these teachers, and they include, of course, the Navajo teachers. They include a number of Mexica teachers like Aele and others from Mexico. They include teachers from even I had ceremony with the Pipil in El Salvador, and Mayan in Guatemala, and then Quechua too. I had a teacher among the Peruvian. What I find is that the ones that are open to teach us, that still have knowledge, those are the ones that help you find that within you, not outside of you, is the power to heal and to change and to transform the world. Because what happens when you're a kid and on drugs and in gangs, you turn your life over to others, you know, when you don't think you have anything. So I turned everything over to the gang. I turned everything over to heroin, turned everything over to anything external. I didn't really have anything for me. And I had to learn myself, but also teach others. You got to be able to draw on your own energies, your own powers. It's there. We don't believe it. We get alienated from it. We get detached from it. But we have to learn. Like I tell people, think about intuition. Think about gut feelings. We've been removing them, but they're actually very helpful. And gut feelings have helped me avoid bullets and helped me avoid making wrong decisions in the relationships, helped me avoid a lot of things. But I didn't know that because I've been clouded with either drugs or drinking. After I let go of the drugs, after 7 years of drugging, I did 20 years of drinking. On top of that, so I was clouded. I had all what I call these fogs. And I had a lot of rage too. And part of the reason why I think I did all the drugs and drinking, because it alleviated the rage. But once I stopped doing that, I was raging even more. So now I have to address the red fog, the red rage that we have. Sometimes we have the white fog, which is the numbness. We're numb. Or we have the black fog, which is deep depression. There's a lot of colors to these. These aren't racial colors. Right. These are colors of the kind of fog that you can't see beyond. So it's really important for people to know that they have to walk with their own capacities, their own strengths, their own knowledge, to find what they're actually capable of doing, their own gifts. Find your purposes, propensities. This is a hard battle. This is a lifelong battle. And I'm going to be 70 years old in a couple of years, so I can tell you it's still there. I'm still struggling. Yeah. Though you know me, I've changed a long ways. I cry now. I used to do things I never used to do. When I grew up in the barrio, as you know, you couldn't do those things. You couldn't. You had to be toughened up. But as you're pointing out, some of the toughest guys are some of the most scared guys. And I know it's hard to admit to that because you got guys tattooed everywhere. I go to the prisons, I see all these heavy dudes, but I can see there's a scared person there. And this is why they're like super tough and they give you these looks and the tattoos that keep you away, keep staying away. But then you got to turn them to the keys of liberation they have inside themselves. There's the prison is not just the wall. It's the prison in your own mind, in your own spirit. Get your keys of liberation for yourself. Don't let the external thing tell you what prison you're in. You got it inside of you.
Yeah, that's so important because what so many generations of oppression and racism and discrimination has done to our people, it's made us forget who we are, but it's also taken us away from that spirit that you call it intuition. I refer to as those grandmother's spirits speaking to you. Mijo, be careful, don't do this. Exactly. Quita de ahí, all these voices in us that are our grandmother's, prayers that when you're tore up, you can't listen to nothing, man. You can't hear nothing. And you think it's weird and stuff, but it's really that medicine voice in us that we all have in us and the inspiration that comes through us. And sometimes we're guided without even realizing we're being guided.
Right.
And I know that's part of your journey too, because how does this, Chicano, indigenous, wounded barrio dude that's strung out on heroin, drinking and all of that, then create this center.
Right.
This center called Tia Chuchas that has inspired so many people for so many years. Where does that dream that you and Trini manifested, how did that come about and where did that come from?
Well, I learned something with my elders. They always said, when you have chaos, the next step isn't order, it's creativity. And it's very important to open up to the creativity part of you, which means that you have to take your time to reflect. And that we don't take time. We're too busy trying to go from one thing to the other. To imagine fully, because we don't even imagine very fully. Most people's imaginations get limited. They only imagine the next car they want to have or the next girlfriend or whatever it might be. They always something, it's okay, but it's limited. Imagine fully. And I think that we had learned, me and Trini, my beautiful, wonderful partner in all this work, is that we came back from Chicago to the San Fernando Valley where she grew up. She grew up in Pacoima. That's her family there. And she says that in all those years she had left, that 20-some years that she had left the community there, nothing had changed. There was still the housing projects, there were still gangs, there were still poor working class people, there were still tensions. There wasn't any bookstores, there was no art galleries. This is for 500,000 people in the Northeast San Fernando Valley. And that's how it is for most of the LA area. If you go to any barrios, they're the same way. There's no books. You can get any gun, you can get any drug you want anywhere, but you can get alcohol anywhere, but you can't buy a book to own. You can't look at art and say, I want to appreciate this art. So we saw the gap, and then our imagination moved to what can we do to fill that gap? And that's what Tia Chuchas was. It's been there, I think, 22 years now. And we opened it up, and I tell you what's funny about it, it's a beautiful center. I welcome anybody to come to Chuchas Centro Cultural and Bookstore in Sylmar in the Northeast San Fernando Valley. When we opened our doors, we made it really beautiful and big. And Jerry, I'm not sure you came to the first spot. I think you might have come to it.
I did, yeah, I did.
Yeah, you know how nice it was. We got pushed out of through 3 different spots, and now we're back in a nice spot again, new space. But the original space was really nice, and people were scared. They were intimidated to go in. We used to see these mothers with their baby carts just looking at the windows. We were, come on in, and they didn't want to. And then when the people do come in, we had artwork on the walls, and they thought we were selling the picture frames because they didn't know that you can buy art or buy art. What's the picture frame cost? That's not the picture frame. It's the art there. Oh, they didn't know. We had coffee. We had performance space. We had books that you could buy. I love libraries. You can get a lot of books, but I think owning books was important. And so I think this was a new, innovative thing. But I think what's important about all this is that intertwined with all that was healing. It was always about the healing. 28 years ago, my wife got adopted by a Navajo, a Dene elder and his wife, and of course adopted the whole family. So that connects us to natives here, and we've been going to the reservation in Arizona for years, ceremony, family time. They're the sweetest family. I don't have a good relationship with my family. I still don't to this day. My sister, my brothers, my nieces and nephews, we don't talk to each other. They never come to Tia Chucha's, named from our aunt. None of my family ever came. My mom came once. My sister came once. That's about it. They just don't like what I do. You know what I'm saying? But this Navajo Dene family, that's my family. They treat us so beautifully. They always embrace us. It's been my family for the last 20-some years. And I mentioned that because what Tia Chuchas had to do was bring healing through the arts. And we were some of the first people that started talking about this in funders. They were talking about the arts like a nice thing to do or whatever, but nobody was talking about the transformative power of arts, the healing capacity of arts. We were one of the first ones. I'm not saying we're the only ones, but one of the pioneers in saying arts has healing. And I know because one of the things that helped me with my mentor was that he got me to paint murals at 17 years old with 13 grandkids. Can you imagine? And we got paid. This is unheard of. But that money went away. All the mural projects went away. You know how it is. They stopped getting money for all this stuff. But at the time, it was changing our lives. And I opened up that whole thing here in the San Fernando Valley so that the barrio here, which is very big, again, 500,000 people, the second largest Mexican Central American community after East LA. And there was nothing going on until we opened our doors. And now, 22 years later, we got a lot of support. Community shows up. We have performances, we have authors, we have festivals. Celebrating Words Festival is our largest festival. We have other ones, which there's local vendors, there's music, there's dance. And we have a Mexica Danza group. It's a resident artist group, the Temestia Quetzalcoatl. We have a youth program. We have a program now that goes into the prisons and juvenile halls that we've been doing for the last few years, where we bring artists, poets, and theater workers into these institutions. And it's going really well. So we interwoven healing into everything we do. So that's what the vitality of Tia Chuchas is.
Wow. And if you haven't visited Tia Chucha, and even if you have, go back. But if you haven't, I would really encourage people to go and share in the experience because, there's so much there. It's so much reflected of really that floricanto, that sense of flower and song that we all have within us. But it's manifested in such a way that you can see yourself, you can feel yourself, you can see your people, and see all people, and not only that, the beauty of the young people that are part of your center that guide a lot of the work. And
I have to say something about that because as you know, me and Trini ran it 17 years. She was the executive director, and I was the president of the board, and we never got paid. She never got paid. People think, wow. Then somebody claimed that we had her as slave labor. Well, this is different. This is not slave labor. It was sacrifice. It's a good sacrifice. We never used Tia Chuchas to feed my family. And being a writer and speaking all over the world, I made enough money to keep my family going. So I didn't have to use Tia Chuchas. We didn't have to pay Trini. I worked and made enough money so that she could do this and make it the place that it is. But after 17 years, a few years ago, we turned everything over to these young people. We just turned everything over. Me and her are no longer doing day-by-day operations. There's about 15 staff now. They're running everything, and they've been trained by her. Some of them came out of high school and now are still with us. They're in their late 30s, early 40s, and they're still with us. And they're doing an amazing job. And the new young people we've hired, they're grabbing the essence of what we created and taking it further. So that's the beauty of legacy, the beauty of trying to build things, is don't just hold on to it. It's my Tia Chuchas, it's our place, we're founders, we're still involved, we guide, I help with outreach and fundraising, I do whatever I can. Trini's still on the board, actually, she's now on the board, but we don't run it, it's in their hands. And we trust it. We trust it. Tenemos mucha confianza that they're going to do the right thing, and they are. These young people are amazing.
You know, you speak of a traditional way that all of our ancestors taught us about generational healing and generational leadership, that you pass it on. It's really, we're doing it for them, for those next generations. Right. And you and Trini are an example of how that's being manifested today in San Fernando Valley and in a beautiful center. And because of that, it's going to go on.
Yeah.
It's going to go on long after us, Luis.
That's the idea.
It will go on that way, You know, there's so much to learn. I want to encourage the audience, again, if you haven't read any of Luis's books, please pick them up. But there's so many other authors there that you can find there at Tia Chuchas that are of inspiration, Please support that work, I'm wondering, as we come to a close here, I really want to lift up you really as an elder, as a healer, as a example for our people, and not lose this opportunity for you to offer some consejos, some counsel for that next generation, for people that are struggling like you were, or people in the middle that want to create but don't know how to create, for people that just on that path, just want to live life in a good way and fulfill themselves. What kind of consejos or elder counsel would you like to offer?
I can spend hours on that, but obviously, but one thing I would say is that healing is really about wholeness. And we come into this world whole, but we come out fractured. As we grow, we don't get integral anymore. We're not integrated. And I think the struggle is to be whole. Each time you heal, you're getting whole. And of course, you're going to fracture again, but you learn how to get whole quicker. You learn how to find a centering space, either through prayer, through ceremony, through contemplation, all kinds of ways to connection. So to me, it's important for people to find their wholeness. Because, again, you look at a kid, and I want to put them down. This is good. The tattoo that we're done, I know exactly where they've been through. I know exactly why they do what they do. We don't want to knock them down, but we want to take them to higher levels of their wholeness so that they're not walking raging men. As you know, we're talking about men. If it wasn't for the drugs, there'd be more rage. But that's terrible that you have to use drugs to mediate rage. You have to address rage, especially men's rage. I think what people have to do is know another good, important, my wise thing maybe to say is it's important to recognize anger. We have got a reason to be angry with colonial life, trauma, racism, everything that's knocked us down. But anger, as one of my elders says, has eyes. The difference with rage is that it's blind. Rage it lashes out. So you want to keep the eyes. You want to know what the source of the anger is and what the solution is. You want to say, I have a good reason to be angry, but if I stay focused, I'll find the way to alleviate that anger. I'll find why I'm angry and try to change it. If you can't do that, then you're raging and you're hurting everybody, especially yourself. That's what that body of warfare and all the drugs and all killing their own. I used to want to kill people who look like me because I'm trying to kill myself, really. And so I think we have to learn to address anger, address it properly. There's ceremony, as you know, there's song, there's prayers. It's okay to be angry, let the world know you're angry, but find those ways that allow you to find its source and how to alleviate it so that you cannot be walking with rage. And maybe I'll leave that with everybody, especially the young men out there. You and me have learned, even though you're pointing out with your daughter, we still have rage in us. And because I'm sober, you're sober, we stay clean and sober, the rage is going to come up because we don't have any way to let it go down other than prayer, ceremony, connection, love, caring, family, all these things that we have. Those are the more powerful ways to address the trauma, because we're going to carry trauma. But going into ceremony, going into prayer, going into song, going into beautiful creative things, I do poetry. I do writing. I speak. I love speaking. To me is partly my practice too. Find those things that allows you to address the anger. You and me have a lot of reasons to be angry. And yet at the same time, we know if we start moving to rage, we become the people that people want to get rid of. We become the reason why they want to put us away. And we have to be a healing thing more than a raging thing.
Wow. You offer such a powerful teaching that I think so many people in this world today, especially, because I see the anger and the rage just explode. We see it all over, people getting shot, people going in establishments, churches and dance halls and all over just shooting people. And you can
very
see.
Very little too, huh? Very little. Yeah. Sometimes it's like somebody bullied you. Okay, I get it. That's terrible. Now I'm going to kill everybody that ever, everybody becomes, and then with guns everywhere. I grew up with guns. I don't have any more guns. People say, well, how do you protect yourself? I use a lot of protection. I don't need guns. You know what I'm saying? Protection is in the proper connections with people. That's also the ancestors. I have protection a lot of ways. I have to walk into prisons or even rough barrios, rough neighborhoods, and just know that I'm going to be protected somewhere or another. Yes, a bullet might come and take me. I get it. But I can't be scared going into that world. And I'm not going to be in there to invite the kind of anger that somebody else might give. I'm trying to invite a kind of love that a lot of people been fighting for and looking for, and they can't seem to find.
Well, I know your ancestors are very pleased. They're very happy with you. And because of that, those grandmas, all those grandmas are just embracing you and blessing you up and protecting you and taking care of you because of all that you've done and continue to do for so many people, Luis. And, I am proud to say, I consider you a camarada, a partner, a homie in this work together as we walk this journey. Sometimes on different sides of the world, sometimes at different places. We see each other at conferences. Even though we don't live that far from each other, but I know that you doing this work along with Trini, along with your familia, and I really just want to appreciate you. I just want to thank you on behalf of our people.
Gracias.
Thank you for who you are, for all you do. And I'm wondering, I don't know if you can do it, just a la brava or how we do it, but you're a poet, brother. And I wonder if you could share something with us, share some words with us to leave us today in a beautiful way with one of your poems. Or
I do have a poem in my head. You've heard it before. I don't mind sharing it. I hope I can still remember, but it's called Piece by Piece. Piece by piece, they tear at you, peeling away layers of being, lying about who you are, speaking for your dreams. In the squalor of their eyes, you are an outlaw, dressing you in a jacket of lies, tailor-made to steal you fit the perfect picture. Take it off, make your own mantle, question the interrogators, eyeball the death in their gaze. Say you won't succumb. Say you won't believe in them when they rename you. Say you won't accept their codes, their colors, their putrid morals. Here inside you have a way. Here you can sing victory. Here you are not a conquered race, perpetual victim, a sullen face in the thunderstorm. Hands and minds, they are carving out a sanctuary. Use these weapons against them. Use your given gifts. They are not stone.
Ooh. Those of you listening have been given a gift, the gift of our ancestors, the gift of our people, the gift of Luis Rodriguez. And feel honored today because the blessing has come to you. And, we want to thank you all, for listening and really appreciate you for taking the time because as our brother Luis says that sometimes you have to take time to reflect. And hopefully this was a good time of reflection. But, there's also a path. You have to seek, your own healing. And one place is Tiachuchas. One place is go visit the place where you can see the creativity, you can see the floricanto, you can see the art, you can hear the poets. There's many things that are going on. And I want to invite the audience to also share some words back, but also send some beautiful prayers and energy to Luis and Trini and the family and Tiachuchas over there so that center can thrive and continue to bless so many people for so many years.
And I want to let you know that me and Trini have a podcast as well called the Hummingbird Cricket Hour. Just look it up. It's on Spotify, Applecast, whatever, all these different things. And just Hummingbird Cricket Hour, and we're there. And also Tia Chucha's it's tiachucha.org. You can also buy books there. You can see all the events we're doing. And then I have my own website, luisjrodriguez.com, in case you want to know about what I'm doing and stuff. So I really appreciate everything you're doing, Jerry, and for making this invitation to speak here and to spread whatever knowledge we can. Again, knowledge and wisdom. There's some things that we're learning for as we walk into the future.
Thank you, brother. And we thank all of you, and may you all have a blessed day and continue to carry these teachings on, share them with others. And remember, you are the sacredness of your ancestors. Carry it forth and share it with others. Thank you very much. Glasukamat.
For more information about Healing Generations and the Healing Generations Institute, visit nationalcompadresnetwork.org and be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with our new releases.